Hello again, thank you for joining me for another video. So normally I keep like a little notebook next to me, and then I'll write down whatever lessons are that I'm currently going through, so that when there's the resolution that comes, sometimes lessons will be a week long, sometimes they'll be a couple weeks long. I've had lessons that were years long. I'm sure you have too. So I write down what's happening, the thoughts that come out in a coherent fashion that I might be able to turn into something that's helpful to somebody else. And what has been going through lately, there's a couple things, but what I've been writing about is shame on the spiritual journey, and not just shame on the spiritual journey, but specifically when you have a purpose and it is shamed out of you, so that what ends up happening is like you're confronted with the spirit of the Antichrist, the spirit of the opposite of what the will in you that is connected to divinity, which is what I believe your purpose is. Your purpose is specifically connected to your soul and your divinity. And so on the spiritual path, that spirit of the Antichrist is going to come against you, specifically attacking whatever it is that you need to condition yourself to be able to do and follow through with your purpose, what your soul's purpose is, what you were made manifest for. And there's arguments on both sides on how much conditioning do you have to actually work through before you can sense the truth of your purpose. And I think it goes beyond words. I think you know what your purpose is, and just like Jonah, you like try to get out of it by any means necessary because it's difficult. So I just made a list of the experiences I've had that prevented me from really living my purpose or being true to myself, because we live in a time period where emotions are used against us. That's the tool that humans use to group and reject or assimilate with others, right? Anyway, so people will convince you aren't special, so you feel called to do a special thing, a purposeful thing for God, for divinity. It feels like the thing that pulls you together, the material and the spiritual, comes together to you around this particular purpose that you just can't quite maybe get your whole mind wrapped around. And people will convince you that you're not special. And so it's hard for you to believe that you should be doing this special thing for the kingdom, in a manner of speaking. That soul level reality where awakened people are actively doing. So as opposed to being an awakened person that is, exiting the life cycle, you can be an awakened person that is doing. And part of that doing is related to what I consider the kingdom and the connection to divinity, the place where the marriage between spirit and matter happens. And people will attack that. People will tell you you aren't special. And if you aren't special in their eyes, then you might believe that you should just be doing whatever but everybody else is doing. What is the norm? What's the normative path to take? That's your safe bet, because what if you're wrong? What if it's ego telling you you're special and you're not really special and you're not supposed to be doing this purposeful thing? Like, who are you? So once you get past the whole, is there a God? Is there divinity? Is there soul? Are we just apes with less hair? Once you get past all of that and you recognize, so then your spirit might come knocking on the door. And then you're going to face these tests. And one of the things is that people, you're going to remember, and they're going to keep on doing it, maybe even louder, what is so special about you? And then there are tricks you're going to have to use. There are skills that you're going to have to develop in order to keep yourself feeling connected to that drive and the motivation that really doesn't matter if you're special or not. If you have a purpose, you have a purpose, and you should fulfill it. Okay, what was another one? Just that your purpose isn't your purpose. You think your purpose is one thing, and you're wrong. And they'll convince you that you're wrong. So let's say that you're completely drawn to music, or writing poetry or something, and they'll tell you that's not really a thing that people do. That's just a hobby. It's a pastime. It isn't going to make a dent in the totality of the world as it stands. And so, little things might creep in. So you'll sit down and you're going to focus and you're going to write a poem, and then, they'll be running the mower right outside your window, or, sirens will go off, right? When you're just getting this like beautiful little bunch of words to come spill together, and then, something will come to distract you. And all of those things might be used then to present a case to you that your purpose is not really your purpose. If it was your purpose, it would be easy, right? You hear all of these things. It has to make money. It has to reach a bunch of people. And your purpose might just be filling this space with this spiritual moment that you're having, because you don't quite see the ripples. You're just in it. You're the rock landing in the water, right? And it's the rippling out. And all of that is out of your hands. You just do the thing that is within your heart to do. And it isn't for some other thing but, being that rock landing in the water. The other thing that happens is they convince you to waste your time convincing them that your purpose is your purpose. Let's see if I read that right. Before you get to activate or live your purpose, you have to prove that your purpose is meaningful, helpful. You have to convince them that you can actually do it. So you might be called to, feel dramatically called to be a, I don't know what people's purposes are. There's so many, You might feel dramatically called to be, a council person in your town, and it's like super important to you and you can't let it go. And your friends and family might say that's ridiculous and it doesn't make a difference, and you'll be wasting time and money and all of the things that you might be wasting, and you get caught up in wasting your energy and your momentum on convincing the naysayers that what you feel in your soul and your heart is actually the truth for you. And you have to try to really not spend the time convincing. We so much need a social network of people to feel just like eating and drinking water and having shelter. Social interactions are equally as important, and so much so that this can be used against you to get you to not fulfill your purpose, and that you have to have an audience of yes men before you're capable. And don't even engage with that at all. You will still get social connections elsewhere. It doesn't have to be anything to do with your purpose whatsoever. Nobody even has to know that you feel that level of soul calling on your purpose for whatever it may be. Some people might convince you that your purpose is actually dangerous and that you shouldn't do it. And who comes to mind right here is that guy, I think Candleless. I can't remember what his first name, Matthew. I don't remember. They made a movie about him. He went out into the Alaskan wilderness by himself and then ended up dying in a bus, an abandoned bus that was there, from starvation, I believe, because something was eating away at him. And he had a really short life, but he felt really compelled to do the thing that he did, and he inspired his story inspired so many people to just see life a little bit differently, and at the same time maybe be a little more cautious about throwing their hat in the ring with Mother Nature just to do it. And so while his purpose was, and his life ended in tragedy, in a manner of speaking, following that purpose that he felt called to follow actually had a huge impact that he didn't get to see. And the amount of people who told him that it was a ridiculous thing to do and dangerous, nobody said, yes, go hitchhike across the barren landscape of Alaska, but he did it. And I think that is true for many people and their purpose. Their purpose can be seen as dangerous to others, and you really have to get it in your mind that it is your experience of divinity coming forth in the material realm. So within that space, you're actually more safe than when you're attempting to live by the rules of the matrix, as it were. So the other thing that will happen is you'll be convinced in some capacity that you're going to be condemned or punished if you fulfill your purpose. You sense your purpose, and then you will also hear somehow feedback from reality or society or whatever saying that you're going to be punished if you do that. You will be condemned. And I think that's a story that comes through pretty strongly, especially in spiritual realms. One of our we know what happens to people who speak up against the controlling system, right? There's lots and lots of examples of that. So that will feed into your faithfulness in feeling like you can achieve your purpose and really go for it without being condemned or punished. It's like that Truman Show, right? Where he wanted to travel and see the world, and he'd go out on the boat, and then they would send the fake storm to scare him back to land, right? And his dad dying, and those things will play in your mind and convince you that it's not a safe bet. You will see example after example after example of people failing at doing this thing. If it is your purpose and you feel called to do it, you have to rise above the fear and the danger so that you can get that exquisite moment where divinity and material, the purpose of your soul, is lined up. Yeah, that's a tough one. And then the other one is that you will be convinced that you aren't capable of completing this purpose. So your purpose might have meaning, and it might be a meaningful purpose, but you specifically aren't capable of completing it. Now I get this one a lot, and I think there's they even have some special word for it, Imposter Syndrome. That's what it is. That's kind of what it is. So it's I've always felt like I'm supposed to write a book. I have actually written a couple books, but I can't get past that mind frame of well, you weren't trained as a writer, so you don't know anyone in the publishing industry, you don't have any contacts, you don't have a big social media following, and on and on and on. So somehow I have to get the message of my book to someone else who is in a position that is capable of fulfilling this purpose, because even though I feel totally called to do it, and in fact did do it, I can't go any further with it. So that someone else is more capable of you feedback is pretty loud. We live in a highly competitive society where looks can be very, very deceiving, and it would appear that there is one way to do things and to get means to an end, and you see it so much and so often, and it's so blatant that it can become a block in your mind that you think that anyone else is more capable of doing this thing that needs to be done, and it simply can't be you. I'm sorry, there's garbage getting picked up out there, and I know it's loud, but I really don't like editing, so I'm just going to keep on going and hope you can deal with it. Maybe it's louder for me than it is for you. Someone else would be much more capable of doing this video than I am. See, this is the point that Spirit is trying to make. And then the last one, and this is a tough one, and I think it's a tough one for all of us to deal with, is that you yourself can feel selfish for wanting to fulfill your purpose if your purpose gets in the way of responsibilities. The other thing is that people will convince you, too, that you are selfish for wanting to follow your purpose, as opposed to, whatever society is demanding. And it's tricky. It's a tricky one. Sometimes your purpose has to wait, because there are other things that need to be done. And in the waiting, you can do other things to make yourself prepared. Like you feel really compelled to travel, and maybe travel on a shoestring budget or whatever. Really try to get into the cultures that you travel to, and you can't just leave behind family or people who rely on you. Maybe you have elderly parents or whatever that you're caring for. You have to do that first and then travel. Like that might be the case, and that's a little bit different than, so there's a balance, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's like you can feel a purpose, and you don't have to buy into the fact that it's selfish to follow that purpose. You don't have to be completely, obnoxiously unaware of the reality and social network that you're living in, that, I must fulfill my purpose and it doesn't matter what I've promised you because now I found my purpose and nothing else matters. It isn't the case that nothing else matters. It is taking what you know to be true and not letting anything stop you, even if that means it has to be done in a manner that's responsible and might be a slower progression. Like right now, I can't do a whole lot that I would really love to do because I need to stay where I'm at, taking care of my responsibilities to my child so that he can become, an adult, and that is a responsibility I have to everybody that lives in the society. As long as I can produce a successful adult that is able to be kind and take care of himself and take care of others, I've done a good thing, and my purpose has to be one with that kind of like rational, logical place that I'm at. Like so it isn't one or the other. It isn't like, I'm just just dying here having to live out these responsibilities. It's how do I take these responsibilities and allow it to make me strong enough so that when I have the opening and the opportunity to fully present the purpose that I feel called to do, that I'm prepared as I can be, and I don't have guilt or shame or any of the mental damage from abandoning my post, as it were, instead. So hopefully I give you a little food for thought. There comes all of these things against you, and you have to really dig deep and keep hold of that it isn't a selfish thing to find, discover, and amplify your purpose on earth, and as opposed to doing what everybody else does, getting the mortgage and keeping the job and all of those things. There's room for both of those things to happen, and I think it has to. And I think part of the reason why we're so stuck is that people have not been living their purpose or even trying to find their purpose. Their purpose has been wrapped up into material struggle, really getting a grip on the material struggle, and we finally passed a plateau where we can now examine what the next level looks like, and that requires people to find their purpose and be willing and brave enough to speak it into reality. So, hope you are well, and feel free to leave any questions, comments below. Take care till next time.